afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. It is Memorial Day in America and Bank Holiday Monday in the United Kingdom. And to recognize Memorial Day, we thought we'd remember some of the wrestlers past, some of the wrestlers who are no longer with us, some of the wrestlers who left us prematurely. So we have a list here of a lot of dead wrestlers. And before I go along that list, let me just introduce you to my colleague, Cousin Chito. How you doing?
Hanging in there. How about yourself?
I'm fine, thanks, mate. Thank you for asking. So we have a list of deceased wrestlers here. We're not going to go through all of them. Most likely the most memorable ones. To start off with, we're going to go with Adrian Adonis. Now, I'm not sure if you know about Adrian Adonis.
I do not.
I don't know much about him too. I think he was called Adorable Adrian Adonis at one point. He was a very larger-than-life wrestler. And yeah, that's all I really know about him. But it's sad that he died at age 33. And then as we go along, we have Andre the Giant. Now here's somebody we both know. And
just so you know, Adrian Adonis apparently died in a car accident. So,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it wasn't even and it wasn't anything crazy. Adrian Adonis died at 33 in a car accident. No real details on my end what it is, but I just find that odd. You know, it's not like a drug overdose or heart failure or anything like that. It was just in a car accident.
Well, I knew Andre the Giant suffered from gigantism. Oh, by the way, you're no longer with us, Bob. Andre the Giant suffered from gigantism. It was a physical condition which makes you just constantly grow, and it was so bad at one point that Andre couldn't even hold himself up. He had to walk around with crutches. Terrible condition for someone to go through. So young as well, 46, but he looked like he was moving about like he was like 86. It's terrible.
Yeah. And probably he died from congestive heart failure, which is probably part of his gigantism.
Yeah. Now, here's somebody who I knew died, but I forgot how he passed away. And that was Andrew Tismartin. He had a famous angle where he was going to be married to Stephanie McMahon until he got blown off by Triple H. Never got some sort of revenge angle to keep him in the light. Ended up being a tag team partner with Albert, with TNA, along with Trish Stratus as the manager. And she went on to become a decent wrestler. Andrew Tismartin, how did he pass, if you don't mind me asking?
Drug overdose, unfortunately.
Not surprised, like many wrestlers, drug overdose. Now, we do have some familiar names here, like Andy Kaufman, but we're not going to go with him. Now, I don't know who this person is, but I do want to, and I'm not going to go on him about too much, but I don't think you know about him too much either. Maybe you want to actually bring up how he died, but I'm just curious because he is so young.
Which one?
Art Barr, dead at 28 years of age.
Art Barr, heart attack caused by drug overdose. I feel like we're going to have a lot of those.
At 28 years of age?
Yeah, well,
that's incredible.
These people get into this stuff, and it's just...
Ashley Massaro, one of the few women on this list, also died before she was 40. Tragic. Someone so young and with so much life to live.
Yeah,
passed away.
And she actually committed suicide.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know, which is crazy because there's got to be, something to live for. Because that's a tragedy right there.
Yep. We have Bad News Brown, Axel Ross in here. The name sounds familiar, but I can't really place him. But Bad News Brown died at 63. That's not so bad. Okay, and we also have Balls Mahoney. Remember Balls Mahoney?
I do remember Balls Mahoney.
ECW legend. And I had no idea that he was dead. Can you please tell me how he passed away?
Heart attack. So
I think we have Shredder joining us possibly as well. Heart attack.
Yep.
At 44 years of age. Surprising.
Yep. Well, I'll watch. As soon as Shredder comes in the thing, I'll let him in.
No problem. Okay, we also have Bam Bigelow. This guy was a legend, in my opinion. Is he in the WWE Hall of Fame? I'd be shocked if he isn't.
I don't remember, honestly.
I'm sure Shredder can enlighten us once he gets in here. But this guy was...
Did you send him the link?
I did.
The first one or the second one?
Oh, I'm not so sure. 1 second.
So while you do that, I'll pick up Bam Bigelow. It said that he suffered from a drug overdose, which again is just kind of crazy. D Jose also says, which is, I don't know where D Jose came from. I mean, Jesus, he's been missing for a hot minute. Sup, y'all. Balls Mahoney was also the evil Santa Claus in WWE for a quick minute. So, I mean, yeah, he kind of looks the evil Santa Claus, I guess.
Yeah, I did send in the right link.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Okie dokie. So yeah, Bam Bigelow. Like for me, he was like one of the like the first sort of like really surprisingly agile big men in the WWE. Like you see this guy, he's round as fuck, but he's got massive amounts of intensity, bursts of speed when he needs it, and surprising agility as well for somebody so big. And hello there, Shredder.
Hi, Sam.
Hello there. Happy Memorial Day and Bank Holiday Monday.
Thanks very much. What have I missed so far?
Oh, we're not much actually. We're just going on about all the wrestlers who have died, who are currently dead.
Like all of them that are, not all of them, but
yeah.
Not all of them, but the more recognizable ones. Now we just spoke about Adrian Adonis, Andre the Giant, Andrew Tismartin, Ashley Massaro, and Balls Mahoney, which was a surprise for me that he actually died at the age of 44. I had no idea about that one. And one of the more bigger names in this list is Bam Bigelow, who died at 45.
Suicide, wasn't it?
No, Bam was, and I have a list here saying what it is, drug overdose. So, I mean, all it says is drug overdose. It might have been like a drug overdose suicide. But the list that I have is not, it doesn't specify.
Well, D. Jose says that Bam had diabetes. He was agile for a dude that was 370. 370? Was he?
Really he was one of the best big men in the business.
Oh, yeah. Bigelow was awesome. I love Bigelow.
But 370? He was really that heavy. Anyway, now here's somebody who I remember very fondly. It's funny because when I just started watching wrestling, Big Boss Man had turned face, so I've always known him as a face. So when I look back at wrestling prior to his face turn, it's weird seeing him as a heel. But Ray Traylor was, I believe, he was actually a prison warden. Is that correct?
He was a prison guard. He was a prison guard in Cobb County while he was paying for wrestling school.
Fantastic. And he's been around the block. Most famously, I think his most famous moment was being hung by the Undertaker.
No, he's had quite a few famous moments. I mean, there's his cage match with Hulk Hogan. There's also his stint as Big Bubba when he was Jim Cornette's bodyguard when he first broke into the business. Him
and Akeem were the Twin Towers, I remember that.
Yeah, but when he first broke into the business, he was Big Bubba Rogers, and he was assigned as Jim Cornette's bodyguard. Now, Cornette's told some stories about Ray Traylor. He loves the guy to death, which is that Ray didn't really get that much in training. He basically got taught how to sign a check and where to get a pair of wrestling boots. He learned on the job, and because he took a slingshot suplex from Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes saw potential in him and made him Big Bubba Rogers, this invulnerable bodyguard who felt no pain. But one of the most iconic moments was when Dusty Rhodes was feuding against the Midnight Express. He clobbers Bubba Rogers over the head with the wooden folding chair. And this chair crashes right into his head, breaks, doesn't even knock off his hat. Bubba no-sells it, slowly takes off his tie, his hat, his jacket, rolls up his sleeves like he's about to kill Dusty Rhodes. Apparently, Dusty forgot to gimmick the chair.
Okay.
He legitimately cracked him over the head with the chair. And Bubba, outside of the business, would no sell physical pain in front of the fans. Cornette's told the story as well, where his hand got latched in the door of a taxi cab.
Oh God, that's
Yeah, the door closed and it latched, and he's saying calmly to the driver, "Brother, the door, my hand's in it."
He's gimmicking even to a cabbie.
Yeah, he gimmicked it to a cabbie, and as soon as he got in the building away from people, he sold the shit out of it.
Oh
But
God.
he refused to sell in front of people.
Well,
But
he had passed away.
He was another great big man. It was very unfortunate that the business lost him at the age that they did.
What was his passing, Cousin Cheeto?
Heart failure.
Not surprised.
I mean, it just made. I mean, a lot of these guys who do. I mean, I don't know if he did steroids in his early career, but a lot of these guys with the steroid use is going to be heart. Well, I'm sorry, it's heart attack, not heart failure. But still, it can be heart attack or heart failure from steroids.
Next to him, I want to quickly briefly mention that there's a guy called Big Bully Busick. I love this guy back in the day. I just loved his look. He was so great. Fucking mustache, bowler hat. I think he might have had a cigar now and again. Just love Big Bully Busick. Rest in peace. But next to him, somebody who did die young is Big Daddy V. And it's not surprising. Look at the size of him. You know what I mean? You know, he's got fucking more rolls than the bakery. And and he's had many gimmicks. You know, was he Mabel?
He was Mabel
in Men of Mission. He was Viscera as well. He's he's been all types of things, more opportunities than you can imagine. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us either. How did he die, Cousin Cheeto?
Heart attack.
Quite shocking.
Yeah.
Quite shocking he got as many opportunities as he did because he had a reputation for legitimately hurting people.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a story, again, Ken Shamrock beat the shit out of him legitimately in the ring as a bit of payback because he was hurting so many people. Nash, as well, has also told the story. If you watch their one...
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
match,
when he fell on his back. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
came right down on Nash's back.
You could broke him in half. When I see stuff like that, I'm cringing. You know, I mean, Jose says never forget Meltzer said Mabel was the third man in WCW.
I don't understand. What is
likewise? What's so funny about that?
I think there was a rumor floating around at one point that King Mabel was going to be brought in as the third man for the NWO angle.
Oh shit!
Because he was released around about that point.
Excuse me.
So we would have, instead of Hogan, we would have had Hall, Nash, and Mabel.
It was never under consideration. It was one of these stupid urban legends that floats around. But yeah, that was a rumor at one point.
Now, just gonna keep going on here. We have Big Dick Dudley, who was one of the original Dudley brothers when they were more of a stable than just a duo. But next to him, surprisingly, Big John Studd died at 47 years of age. How did he pass away, Cousin Cheeto?
Big John Studd was liver cancer. So
wow, yeah. He was one of the top, say close to top tier, but definitely a decent mid card heel within the WWE's early days.
I'm not gonna lie, he looks a lot like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Let's keep going on here. A lot of these Bobby Duncombe Jr. Duncombe. I said
Bobby Duncombe Jr. Yeah,
he was part of the West Texas Rednecks in WCW.
I do remember him.
He looks a bit like Edge here. You know what I mean, with like a broader chest.
Bobby Heenan was a tragedy the way he went. He should be around today doing podcasts. What an absolute shame that his throat and his jaw went.
It was terrible. Seeing him before he died, like it was. I was heartbroken seeing him the way he was. knowing that this guy who verbally was on another level was never able to speak again. It was horrible to see him like that. It's amazing, you know, like when you see people who are so talented, and when you see like disease hit them, viruses hit them, and you see them fall apart, it's just and knowing that they'll never be the same again. Muhammad Ali comes into mind, and obviously Bobby Heenan as well. It's the worst. I mean, at least he lived till his 70s, which is a lot more than a lot of wrestlers on this list. He had a good career, good life. Yes, I do, mate. I do. All right. Let's move on. Now, this is a tragic one here. Brian Christopher Lawler. I mean, for Jerry to bury his own son is always the worst thing, to bury your own child. He was part of was it Too Cool?
Yep.
Too Cool. Held titles in Memphis as well.
He was an arsehole, I heard. I mean, everyone knows about the story about JBL hog-tying him or some shit like that. Yeah.
I mean, JBL doesn't have much room to talk. I mean, JBL's an asshole too.
No, JBL's an asshole, but Brian Christopher went to the next level, and even JBL had, you know, he it's very please enlighten us. You've told the story before.
Yes, the story is that there was a guy in the locker room who was bragging about getting women blackout drunk to the and taking advantage of them, and it apparently was Brian Christopher. It got to the point JBL decided to inflict a bit of locker room justice, shall we say. So Brian Christopher is in the shower, JBL walks in, everybody else clears out. JBL hog ties him and starts soaping him up and threatening him with think a packet of hot dogs, and basically telling him he's going to make him feel like he made all those women.
Okay. I mean, God rest his soul, but man, you know, I mean, I like JBL. You know, like I know he's kind of an ass, but like I like JBL. I've always liked JBL. On the commentary, honestly, in the ring too. I'm not gonna lie.
He says he's a traditional man in that sense, old school in that sense. You know what I mean? Very valiant when it comes to upholding certain traditions and, you know, like drugging women. You know, he might be an arsehole to certain levels, going to certain directions. I think this is not the level of arseholery that he would ever think about doing, which is why he did what he did, if you know what I mean. And props to him, man. To at least you know where he stands on those particular issues, and it's good to know these things. Yeah, but you'll never think of hot dogs the same way again. Yeah, you're damn right. Yeah, for sure. But let's move on from this person and go on to somebody who was also died at a very young age. So much life to give, so much wrestling to give, but it kind of got cut short with a tragic accident. We saw his documentary recently on Dark Side. Brian Pillman, 35 years of age. Tragedy beyond belief with this person dying. I mean, he's like the Heath Ledger of wrestling. He really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So heart attack after so many years of drug abuse.
So and also they look the same. Please, what do you guys think of Brian Pillman? I'll start with you, Bobby.
I mean, I didn't think that I didn't see a lot of Pillman because he just died right before I started watching WWF on and off, and I didn't even watch WWF a lot. I didn't start watching WWF until after basically WCW went under, because I was a WCW mark. So I didn't see a lot of Pillman regardless. But I mean, from what I've seen of him, he looked great wrestler. But yeah, I mean, it's what happens with a lot of these guys. The drug abuse just gets to them. And I mean, it just, you know.
Shred?
Yeah, WWF fans did not get to see Pillman at his best. That's been well documented because, unfortunately, when he signed, he had completely destroyed his ankle in a car accident. His days of flying Brian in WCW are unmatched. I highly suggest anybody go back and watch any of his WCW matches. I don't recall him actually having a bad one. He should have been a top guy. If he had been able to work through the leg injury and with as much charisma as he had, and the rivalry in particular he could have had with Stone Cold Steve Austin, we could have potentially have been looking at a future WrestleMania match there, a future WrestleMania main event.
Sure.
When the Hollywood, with the collision of the Hollywood Blondes, but unfortunately, gone far too young.
I remember him more as Flying Brian, as well, young baby face, just all over the place, and it's just crazy, like sort of shit. It's just crazy what's happened to him, and it's almost like life throwing you a curveball, because he's got his master plan all set up, and then one car crash and everything's in ruins. And who knows, if it wasn't for that car crash, he'd probably still be with us today.
Well, it's like another name that you're probably going to bring up. I'll just say Owen Hart. I mean, Owen Hart had got everything he wanted almost. I mean, he had just paid off his dream home. He was thinking about leaving the professional wrestling industry and going in to do something else. I think he was planning to become a firefighter.
Yeah,
but he had just paid off his dream home, and then tragedy struck.
Personally, if Owen Hart was still alive, even if he wanted to be a firefighter, so to speak, I still think he would have dabbled in wrestling a lot if he was still alive, because he's just too good not to. And plus, he brings a different element to the Harts, because with Bret Hart around, when I think of the Harts, they're a bunch of miserable gits. But at least Owen Hart was a different person. He was always a happy-go-lucky, very funny, practical jokes and all of that. And it's a shame that he's gone, because he doesn't bring that element to the Hearts anymore. But we're going to talk about him in a little bit. I'm going to mention Brodie Lee now. Here's somebody who passed away recently. Luke Harper, Brodie Lee, absolutely fantastic. One of the best, like, big sort of lumbering guys you would see. Like, usually there's different types of big men. Like, they're tall, big, and white guys. He was more leaner, but still, just looking at him, he reminds me of all these other hit-looking fighters I've seen in the past, from fucking what's his face? The one who claps all the fucking time, Hillbilly Jim, and all that sort of shit, and the fucking and those brothers, those two Hick brothers who Hillbilly Jim managed. What were they called?
The Godwins.
The Godwins, yeah, and stuff like that. He had that sort of vibe about them.
Well, just look who he's right next to, Bruiser Brody. He was almost the modern. He could have been the modern version of him.
But I'm just saying, he was more than that. He had really fucking good matches, and it always surprised me how good his matches were. And the guy never spoke a word. He was popular because of his wrestling. He didn't have to get himself over verbally. His wrestling did the talking. And that makes him a fucking brilliant fucking wrestler, in my opinion.
I take it this is you referring to his days in the Wyatt family, then, not his days as the Exalted One.
Yes, of course.
Because he spoke a lot.
Yes, and I saw him in his interviews, and it's hilarious to know that Vince couldn't get over the fact that somebody who looked like him had a New York accent and didn't sound like they were from fucking Nashville, Tennessee, and some shit like that. So yeah, Brodie is class, and it is such a like this like, how did this happen? Please, somebody explain how somebody who didn't seem like he was going to die any second did just die out of nowhere, and I can't fucking believe it. Cousin Cheeto, explain it to me.
I didn't see much of Brodie Lee. I stopped watching wrestling at that point. From what I saw of him in the Wyatt family, he did look pretty good. He was a pretty good big man. But I mean, like a bigger guy, not obviously like big like Vader, but like, taller, bigger, bulkier. I had no issues with him at all.
No, but how did he pass?
Oh, he had pulmonary fibrosis, which is basically,
no idea what that is.
It's a condition that where you get a lot of scar and damaged tissue in your lungs, and it makes the tissue stiff, and it makes it hard for you to breathe. So he probably died in his sleep when he either couldn't breathe or just aspirated or something. So
I'm glad you told me this, because wrestlers have been dying young so often for years now that once I found out he did die, I wasn't even concerned how he died. I just thought to myself, oh, another wrestler's died young again. Shredder, what have you got to say on all of this?
Well, he was quite a shock because everybody thought he was just out with a knee injury when he'd been off TV for a while, and then it turned out no, he's been in the hospital. AEW kept it extremely quiet. There was a horrific article by Bruce Mitchell from the Pro Wrestling Torch, which got him fired, where he claimed that they were covering up the fact he died of COVID-19, which wasn't true. But the fact is, Brodie Lee was so respected throughout the industry. I don't think there was anybody in the business who had anything bad to say about him when he passed.
Yeah, that's what I hear. He's a very popular guy. Let's move on. We've got a couple of Nature Boys here. We've got Buddy Landell. Nature Boy Buddy Landell, is that correct?
Oh, we're skipping Bruiser Brody.
If you want to talk, I know nothing about him, but please.
Brody, you should know something about him because he was the subject of a Dark Side of the Ring episode. He was murdered in Puerto Rico, stabbed in the locker room.
I'm trying to remember the episode, but I've seen them all. Was it season 1 or 2?
I think it was season 2, but he was stabbed in the shower of the locker room and bled to death there. He died in the hospital, but he lost much blood.
Was that episode based on it? Was that episode based on Bruiser Brody?
Yes, the fact that it was dedicated to him and his murder. Savio Vega was there for the aftermath. Tony Atlas put his finger into the wound to stop the bleeding. Bruiser was so big, Tony Atlas had to carry him out and put him in the ambulance.
I'm vaguely remembering this now because they got into a lot of shit a lot of the times because people back then didn't know what kayfabe was, and Bruiser Brody being a heel. Yes,
Bruiser Brody, they tried to paint him at the trial as being this wild, out of control nut who would have attacked. Who the hell was it that stabbed him? The name escapes me off the top of my head. I do apologize for that. But the American wrestlers didn't get requests to appear in court until after the trial was already over.
Okay.
I mean, it was a goddamn tragedy that his murderer got away with it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this.
Jose Gonzalez. It was Jose Gonzalez that stabbed him.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue here. I'm going to miss out a few of these guys. There's some recognizable names.
Okay. Yeah, you got Nature Boy Buddy Landell, Nature Boy Buddy Roberts, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, Playboy Buddy Rose.
Butch Reed.
The natural Butch Reed.
Decent age. Now, this one surprised me, but I didn't know he passed away. Was Chavo Guerrero Sr. Well, what year did he die?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Unfortunately, Cheeto, who probably has the whole list there, would be able to tell us. I can't remember when Chavo Sr. passed away.
Yeah, me neither. That was a surprise. I didn't know he passed away. Now here's one. I'm going to go with a bit more controversy. I don't know where's Cheeto gone. I think he's sorting out with his kids right now.
I was about to say I just came back. I told you I put in the private chat, but it's okay. We have someone else trying to come in.
Okay.
Do you want me to add anyone else in?
I don't want to say no, even though he doesn't fucking join us anymore. But yeah, if he wants to fucking join us for this one as a one-off, then fucking join us out of the blue.
Yo.
Oh, look. What's your name again? Oh, it's Roger Hernandez.
Yo.
Oh, yeah. How you doing, mate? How you doing?
I'm living.
Well, look, I'm going to continue now with the most controversial of the lot on this list is Chris Benoit. Now we all know, I think everyone knows a lot about him, so let's not delve into this too much. But he killed himself, allegedly. Hornswoggle says that it was a setup, but he did kill himself. It was a tragic way for such a tremendous career, a tremendous life to end his life, and not only that, but to tarnish his life by killing his family. And unfortunately, he'll never be looked upon the same way again. So no rest in peace for you, Chris Benoit. What have you done? Even with all the drugs he's taken, you got to know that you're killing your fucking wife and kid. You got to know to some degree. To some degree, you got to know what you're doing there.
It depends. His autopsy came back and it said that he had the brain similar to a 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. So,
I mean, yeah, I've seen. I would actually agree with Shredder. I mean, there's no excuse. It tarnished his legacy, yes, but this is something that I bring up a lot. Is that chair shots to the head, diving headbutts off the top rope, suicide dives onto the concrete floor. Like all of this stuff is not exactly, I've worked with traumatic brain injury patients. I mean, their rational center is just gone. Like there's if you have the damage in the right place, you have no idea what's right and wrong. So I mean,
No, I agree. I agree,
justifying
but
it,
he did
absolutely
feel
not.
yeah.
But he needed help, and he needed
No,
help long before this.
I do agree with all of that because he did end up killing his wife and kid, even though I find it unimaginable that he could do, no matter how juiced up he was. I do understand that the juiced up thing still made him do that, as well as the chair shots and all of that. It's just a shame. That's all. Anyway, sorry,
the two positives going forward were the fact that WWE did start to enforce their wellness policy after this happened because of the amount of steroids that were found not only in his body but also in his house. And also they did put an end to weapon shots to the head.
Yeah, for sure, which was probably one of the best things, as well as blading and stuff like that. I think they ended too, didn't they?
No, that ended when they went PG, and also there's a lot of states where the Athletic Commission require them to stop a match if anyone starts to bleed, so they actually have to stop the match and get guys patched up.
Jose?
Yeah, it's a good thing that that they enforce their wellness policy now, and that they stop chair shots to the head, and they're trying to tone things down now. Like, I'm grateful that we don't see pile drivers anymore as often as we used to, because that's another.
You don't see them at all.
Yeah, you don't see
only tombstone ones, maybe.
Yep. And only tombstones because you go to your knees, you don't go directly on your ass, and
yeah,
it's very easy to get your neck broken. But yeah, with Benoit, his death led to a change in the business that I know not a lot of fans like, but looking at it in retrospect, it's a good thing that they had to do what they had to do to keep guys safer. You know, I'm glad that we chair shots to the head. I'm glad that they don't do blading as often as they used to. It's very rare that you'll see guys blade now, at least in WWE anyway.
I have no problem with them gushing naturally, unintentionally, then just keep it going. But blading, no, not for sure. Okay, let's move on to the next guy. This guy, there's something about him that reminds me that he's reasonably important, but I just can't put a finger on it. But Chris Candido.
Chris Candido was big in ECW, wasn't he?
Yeah, Candido was a big dude in ECW. He got really over in ECW.
33 years of age. How did he die, Cousin Gio?
From acute pneumonia. So he basically had a lot of fluid built up in his lungs and everything like that, and just. I mean, you can literally drown, in your own lungs when you have like a severe enough case of acute pneumonia. Yeah. So, I mean, and also the infection, it also makes infections and everything like that. And I mean, I don't have the specifics on his, but I know what acute pneumonia is. And yeah, it's not.
See, I'd always heard it was a blood clot that had caused his death.
Yeah.
Well, but you can also get a blood clot, from. I mean, I'm just going off of what it says here on the list. It says acute pneumonia. Okay. So, I mean, maybe if it was a blood clot and this list is wrong, but I don't know the specifics. I'm just going off of I know what acute pneumonia is. So
because right before he died, he'd had a horrific leg injury in TNA that he had required to have surgery for.
Yeah, did he fall off the cage or something like that?
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was he fell off the cage or if it was even just a simple bump that did it. Yeah. But he had a horrific leg injury. He required surgery, which he had, but then afterwards, I think he flew against doctor's advice.
Well, we'll move on here. We've got Chris Kanyon. I remember Chris Kanyon. I thought this guy was going to be going places. Unfortunately, the only place he went was 6 foot underground. How did he pass away, Cousin Cheetah?
I'm sorry. Chris, I was just reading up on Chris Candido. Sorry. The doctors diagnosed him with pneumonia, and just a couple days later, he died after because of the infection.
Oh,
so that's Chris Candido.
Yeah, that's Candido. I'm sorry. Which one were you on? Chris Kanyon?
Chris Kanyon.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, hold on. I gotta get back to my list here. Sorry.
Which was suicide.
I think he was suicide.
It was suicide. He was severely bipolar.
So many suicides. It's unreal.
He had really severe bipolar disorder.
I'm going to go through this next list of 3. I'm going to try and couple the Von Erichs as
how old was he?
Canyon.
40. Yeah. 40 years. 40.
Oh, 40. Okay. Sorry. This is split up by decades. So,
yeah.
This list is at least.
Canyon had a lot of problems. If the best person to listen to talk about, well, the best 2 people to listen to talk about him are probably James Mitchell and Raven. James Mitchell lived with him for a period, and I think was the first person to find out that Canyon was gay.
Yeah, I thought DDP was close friends with him too.
They did become close friends, but I think he was closer with Raven and James Mitchell.
Yeah, it was suicide by drug overdose.
Oh, a lot of drug overdoses.
Okay, so Levon Ericks.
The most
I think the only
as well debatable.
Well, only one brother's left.
Kevin.
The rest are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Kerry Von Eric is the one I remember the most, the Texas Tornado. But they all had their roles to play.
Yeah.
The Von Erichs, I'm going to just couple them as a group. This one, Chris Von Eric, died at 21 years of age.
Yeah,
so that's the most tragic of the lot.
Suicide by gunshot. So
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That was Kerry's death as well, suicide by gunshot.
Yep.
Kerry, I don't get it, man. Kerry Von Eric is a very good-looking man with an amazing physique. Why is he killing himself? He's got the whole world.
What fucked him up, though?
Oh, yes, I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, these vehicle accidents that ruin wrestlers.
Yeah.
Because Kerry was also a hardcore drug addict.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that, too.
And
I heard about that, too.
Hardcore drug addict. He couldn't get off the pain meds.
Anyway, on to China next. This was unbelievable when I found out she passed away. Now I knew her life was going down the toilet after WWE, doing like seeing her with all her plastic surgery, trying to still look like she used to, and doing the porn and stuff like that, and the drugs and stuff like that. Still, it was always shocking. 46 years of age. So at one point, sorry,
she didn't surprise me. That one didn't surprise me. The way her life was going after WWE, when you listen to her in some of her interviews, she came out with some outrageous things too. I mean, for example, she claimed that Sean Waltman had raped her when they did the One Night in China video.
I heard Sean Waltman was beating her up.
Yeah, I heard that too.
That was alleged, yeah.
Yep.
She just medication overdose with her. And actually a fun personal story about China. About a year before she died, me and some friends went to a Comic-Con in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we met China. And so, I mean, she was actually pretty cool. I mean, and actually it's really funny because one of my friends we were there with had no idea about wrestling. All we saw was the back of her, and she was walking in a parking lot, and he looked at me and he's like, is that like that? Is there a China chick from wrestling? And I'm like, and I'm legit, like, I couldn't even tell from the back. I'm like, but she was huge, obviously. But then she turned around and we're like, that is China.
She just never seemed like she could quite get it together after leaving WWE. Like, I don't think she ever got over the Triple H Stephanie affair. I think, she never got.
She chose to pursue porn over working for TNA.
Yeah.
She had that return match with Jeff Jarrett against Kurt Angle, and I can't remember who he tagged with. But after the match, she was offered a contract with TNA, but part of the condition for signing was that she wouldn't do the anal porn video that she had already contractually agreed to do, because TNA didn't want to be associated with it. So she chose to go ahead and do the porno rather than work for TNA.
Lovely. Well, let's move on to one of the Hollies, and this is Crash Holly. He died at 32 years of age. I remember him, before what's his face? R-Truth was becoming 24/7 champion all the time. There was a 24/7 clause on the hardcore belt, and my man Crash Holly was constantly champion.
To this day, the funniest title change ever in the history of the business was when Gerald Briscoe pinned Crash Holly in his sleep. I will never forget that. That is one of my all-time favorite moments.
Yeah, they repeated that with Jinder Mahal getting pinned by R-Truth when they were going to Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did he pass away, Cousin Chio?
Drug. Hold on, I just had it up and now I can't even remember. It looks
Suicide.
like, suicide by drug overdose and alcohol poisoning.
Suicide.
Saddest thing about that was at Stevie Richards' house.
Yeah, overdosed on muscle relaxants.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, here's one further demolition, and he did go on to do a sort of Aloha Hawaiian sort of cool gimmick or Islander gimmick for a little bit. Crush. 43 years of age. Couldn't believe it. Another person died way too young. What you got on that, Chio?
That's Brian Adams, right?
Yes.
Brian Adams.
Yeah,
yes.
it was a drug overdose.
No wonder he called himself Crush. He can't have the same name as a fucking Canadian rock and roller.
Or a American soda pop.
I did wonder that Brian Adams' name in the NWO and also as one half of Chronic.
Yeah, they did do that. I agree. I remember that. I remember when Chronic were in the WWE and then they were gone. You know,
one match,
and then
I think it was one pay-per-view match, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fun was Undertaker was friends with both of them.
Yep.
Like, yeah, this shit ain't gonna work.
Well, this next guy is arguably one of my favorite wrestlers of the early era of the WWF. This guy has a finishing move that is just so genius at the time that I just fell in love with him. He would suplex you and lock you into a pin. I never seen anything like that before. It's like the cleverness, the technique of it. This guy was, technique personified, some of his innovation as well. And he really was just a natural. And the way he worked alongside Bobby Heenan, fantastic. It's such a tragedy that he died. I love Kurt Hennig. I love Mr. Perfect. He is fucking brilliant. One of the greatest heels of all time. How did he pass away, Cousin Cheeto? Probably drugs.
Cocaine.
Yep, cocaine overdose. He's one of those guys. He's probably top 2 and the greatest to never win a world.
Yeah.
I mean, it says combined drug intoxication, but I mean, yeah.
It is criminal. It's criminal that he hasn't been WWE or WWF champion. Absolutely criminal. You know what I mean?
He wasn't even WCW champion, was he? I don't even think he was that.
No.
Which is absolutely, I mean, criminal. Yeah, I mean, like, you would figure out of either of those two promotions, he would have grabbed a heavyweight title.
I think the only promotion whose heavyweight title he held was the AWA.
Yeah, and that was against Bockwinkel way back in the day. That was like 40-something years ago.
Yeah, but that perfect plex, what a fucking move. What a fucking move. I love shit like that. I love moves that lead to a pin. I love shit like that. Anyway,
Zam, I'm gonna have to come back, okay? But
no problem. I'll continue here. All right. So we're gonna be going on to my compatriot, Davey Boy Smith. Now, I'm gonna have to use you for my encyclopedia now, Shredder, because I don't have Bobby around with the Wikipedia. So Davey Boy Smith died at the age of 39. This was one of the biggest deals for me when I found out, because I met this man in WH Smith's in Brent Cross in 1993 before SummerSlam. And it was one of the greatest moments of my entire life at the time. I remember how everyone was cheering for him, when we were there. It was just amazing just to see him there. I was like giddy as fuck. And then he died at age 39. I heard he was a bit of an arsehole in real life.
He was a drug addict for most of his life. I mean, you mentioned SummerSlam in Wembley. Bret Hart had to carry that whole match because Davey had been smoking crack before the night before the match.
Yeah, he had to call everything from A to Z, and then you could see it when remember that spot when Bret dove over the top and Davey was supposed to catch him and he didn't catch him. Bret got visibly pissed off about that because he started blowing spots in the match, and Bret was just pissed. A lot of people consider that the greatest Intercontinental title match in the history of the company.
That's really the greatest match of Bret Hart's entire career.
Yeah, it is.
That showed just how fantastic he was that he was able to carry a train wreck like Davey Boy Smith to have a match that good.
Yeah.
That's the epitome of carrying a broom. Davey, there was a lot of controversy at the time when he passed away because he died of a heart attack. There were some people who said steroids because it was mentioned in the coroner's report at the time. But a lot of wrestlers objected to it. They said that, well, no, hang on, you can't pin this on steroids because Davey did so many other drugs throughout his entire career. You know, he did crack, he did a lot of painkillers. When he was in his final WWF run, he was an absolute mess.
Well,
I mean, he was brought in to potentially have a run with the WWF title, but after his first few matches, they decided against it because of just how bad he was.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But the pain pills had kicked off because he fell on the hatch for the trapdoor that Warrior was supposed to pop out of during a War Games match.
Yep.
So that fucked up his back.
The British market is WWE's second biggest market, and they were never going to miss out on an opportunity to, you know, if they could put the belt on someone like Davey Boy, but he just didn't earn it because, by the sounds of things, he just kept fucking up.
Not to mention,
it's a shame.
Not to mention they had to repackage him so many times. Like JR used to say, how many times can you repackage the same character over and over and over again to try to get him to connect? And yeah, he may have been big where you guys were at, but to us here in America, it was like, all right, you know, yeah, we
was docile on the mic as well.
Yeah,
you know, very Dick Murdoch, is he the father or brother of Trevor Murdoch?
No,
I don't.
No, they look how similar
related.
they look. Is that Ole and Arn Anderson? They're not related.
Trevor Murdoch was given that name. It's a bit like C.W. Anderson. C.W. Anderson looks a bit like Arn and Gene and Lars Anderson, but he's not related. Trevor Murdoch looks like Dick Murdoch. That's how he got the ring name, but he's not related in any way.
Okie dokie. Well, here's somebody who I do remember his Dark Side of the Ring episode, because how he died. He was murdered, shot to death. Dina Bravo. I remember Dina Bravo and his patented side suplex. I actually liked the blonde hair. He didn't like the blonde hair, apparently. But I liked it. I think it suited him. And it's a shame he never got very far in the WWE, because as a wrestler, you know, once you're not in the WWF anymore, you're done. And it was like that for Dina Bravo, and he became a fucking hired muscle and shit like that. Worked for the Canadian Mafia, and not surprising that he ended up, you know, as a fucking, you know, as shooting practice. Does anyone know why he died? Shredder?
Mop hit, I think.
Yeah, we're still going, bandits. Say again?
I think it was a mafia hit.
Yeah, Canadian Mafia hit, and they still,
yeah, but what exactly? What was it about?
They're never going to figure that out with Dino, because to this day, it's been I'm 32 going on 33, and he died, I think, the year I was born in 88. Somebody will correct me out there, but yeah, they'll never figure that out with Dino Bravo, because people know where the bodies are buried, and yeah.
Dynamite Kid, who's a controversial character, died at 60. Surprised he lasted that long. And when you see Dynamite Kid in his latter years, he looked nothing like this specimen here.
Asshole. Dynamite Kid, yeah. He and God, one of the Rougeaus got into it. It's like one of the most famous backstage fights you'll ever hear about.
It was Jacques Rougeau.
Yeah, Jacques Rougeau and Dynamite Kid, they used to go at it. And it was all started from a rib by Kurt Hennig.
You can see the archetype for Chris Benoit in him. I mean, they're pretty much clones. I'm going to move on here to Earthquake, 42 years of age. I liked Earthquake. I liked him a lot. And I remember when I first saw him, he was like 27 years old, and he looked like he was 42.
Yeah, he looked.
Yeah, he's always looked older. It's unfortunate. I think with him it was pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, I think it was either pancreatic or bladder cancer that he passed away from. It was one of the two.
Yeah, it was one of those two.
Yeah,
I heard he was one of the nice guys, but backstage. Is that true, Shred?
Yeah, I have heard that. He was a really super nice guy.
Yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on a bit. if I'm missing these names you want to talk about, let me know. But I'm going to go straight to the most recognizable one here, and that is Eddie Guerrero. Now, we're all old enough to remember this one. This is probably arguably one of the most impactful ones, of the new century, the new millennium. Eddie Guerrero dying, like he had earned his dues, WWE champion. There were still lots of dream matches for him to come, like Shawn Michaels.
And this is I truly believe had Eddie and Shawn would have happened at Mania 22, it would have been top 3 Mania matches of all time. And I will die on the hill of saying that Eddie versus Shawn is arguably the greatest WrestleMania match to never happen.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
And it's a shame. Dying, I believe, of a heart attack.
Yeah,
it was a heart attack. He, I believe, he was actually supposed to win the title, win the world title.
The night he died.
Not quite the night he died, but definitely that week.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what day it was he died. I'm pretty certain it was before the SmackDown, a day or two before the SmackDown event.
It was either, I think, the week before or like the SmackDown taping the week of that he died. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, he was supposed to win the title in a triple threat with Randy Orton and Batista.
Yeah, and then drop it back to Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble. I think that's what they were going to do with him. Yeah,
and he's another one where steroids were a huge factor in it. And in Eddie's case, it was completely undeniable because he'd been using steroids, he'd been using human growth hormone. His autopsy showed that his internal organs had enlarged and his arteries had shrunk.
Yeah,
which means his heart was having to work 10 times harder just to get blood through his system.
Mm-hmm. And Eddie, I think even if he didn't die when he did, he would have died anyway. It was one of those where I think his fate was already determined, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah.
We've already mentioned Bam Bigelow Bandits because we're doing this alphabetically, as you can see. Yeah, Umaga will come eventually. There are recognizable names here, but there's nothing tragic about dying in your 80s. Good to see that George Animal still lasted till 79, but here's one which kind of surprised me. Giant Gonzalez, 44 years of age. Shred, you got anything to add on that one?
No, I'm not surprised because men his size don't tend to live into their 70s and 80s. And, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jose?
Yeah, he had diabetes, if I remember right, and that's what ended up getting El Gigantism. But he was dudes where, he was, for a character of his time, he was imposing to take on The Undertaker in 1993. That's pretty much what I remember him for. And I know he was in WCW for a cup of coffee during the RoboCop days. Oh, man.
Yeah, when Ric Flair can't carry you to a good match, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, someone that tall is pretty hard to work with, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure how well you know about not British wrestlers, but British wrestling, D. Jose.
Yeah.
You had the Big Daddy?
Yeah, Big Daddy, yeah, he goes.
And Giant Haystacks.
Yeah, Giant Haystacks, yeah.
Giant Haystacks was briefly in WCW for a time period. He was brought over and packaged as Loch Ness. And he was going to be this big monster opponent for Hulk Hogan.
Why do I have a feeling that was a Jim Hurt idea? Oh, yeah, probably.
Probably was, but he was diagnosed with cancer, returned to the UK to live out the last months of his life.
Oh, boy.
Giant Haystacks, 52 years of age. I remember him and Big Daddy, their matches. Yeah, by the way, Big Daddy, I think he retired after he killed somebody in the ring. Is that correct?
I can't remember if he retired. I don't think he did. I know it was a big controversy when it happened.
He fucking splashed this guy and he ended up killing him.
Yeah, the guy died of, I think, heart failure.
Ooh.
His opponent died of heart failure after Big Daddy, Shirley Crabtree's entire weight just crashed onto his chest.
Okay, so once again we see some recognizable names and faces here. But the one I want to focus on is Hercules. I believe his name is actually Hercules. Is that correct? His real name, first name is Hercules. Is that correct?
Oh,
Hercules
God,
Hernandez.
My
I think
dad,
that's his name.
next door neighbor to Hercules Hernandez, he says he was kind of a dick, or at least that's what he told me.
Yeah, there was a rumor
other
that
people say he's a really nice guy.
Huh. Okay.
And the flowers were getting left on his grave, decades after he passed.
Maybe he and my dad just didn't get along back then.
It could be.
I remember him and Paul Romeo Roma, and as Power and Glory. You guys remember that shit?
Yeah.
Yep.
Glory.
I love their finishing move. Their finishing move was awesome. He would do a superplex, and then on the guy, and then from the other turnbuckle, Roma would do a splash.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was very, I love that finish. It was awesome. All right, let's move on. So
I'm going to give an honorable mention to Howard Finkel real quick. The greatest ring announcer we'll ever have.
Yep.
Going to be another one like him, even though all he did was tuxedo matches, but still, he should be mentioned.
Well, not just tuxedo matches. He did have oh, no, sorry. I'm thinking of Gene Okerlund. I was going to say he had a tag match with Hulk Hogan, but that was Okerlund.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, 69 years of age. Jack Turner as well, the fake president of the WWE. Imagine having a job like that just to pretend to be the owner.
Well, that was Vince's way of getting into Canada.
Yep, and his death was one of the rarely only ones that they didn't even mention it when Jack Tunney died. I'm like, who did he piss off? Who he upset?
Yeah,
they never mentioned.
Well, Jim the Anvil Neidhart died recently, only 63 years of age, which is still reasonably young. And I'm sure, and I saw before him dying, I remember him and Bret Hart would be doing shoot interviews, doing a little tour, and and Anvil was all over the place. I think Hitman was in a good place with Anvil, like he wasn't embarrassed by him. But if I was around Anvil, I'd be embarrassed by him. Anvil was all over the fucking place. He was nuts.
Well, you got early on.
We're not talking.
Go on. Early onset Alzheimer's will do that to a person because he'd probably been with that for some time, and they just didn't know it, unfortunately. Because you could even see it like in those fucking fake reality shows when they would show him. It was like he would just mumble on and on for no reason.
Anvil was another one who was a drugged out mess. There's reports of him breaking into his neighbor's medicine cabinet, for Christ's sake.
It's so tragic to hear what these amazing, entertainers who have entertained us for years have turned into. It just feels so wrong that so many people have ended up killing themselves. But I just want to blame Vince for it. Anyway, let's move on. I mentioned Kerry Von Eric earlier.
We did not cover Superfly, but everybody knows about that.
No, but Superfly 73. It's not that tragic, and he's a fucking arsehole as well.
The only tragedy was the fact he died before he could be prosecuted for murder.
Amen. Amen. I'm in a total agreement.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny Grunge. Okay, that's.
I was going to mention Junkyard Dog. 45 years old. Absolutely tragic that this guy who should have been a pioneer for African American wrestlers at the time never got a chance to. And 45 years of age. Fucking, that's just way too young, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, Zam, because Junkyard Dog, the only guy who really knew how to use him properly was Bill Watts. Yeah. When he got to the WWF, they didn't know how to use him. Unfortunately, he wasn't the greatest worker. There's been so many black wrestlers who were far, far better workers than Junkyard Dog.
Bad News Brown.
Bad News Allen, Ron Simmons, Butch Reed, they were far better workers than Junkyard Dog was.
Fair enough.
Junkyard Dog died in I know I've been gone, sorry, in a car accident, actually.
Yeah, right behind him. Okay, Kamala, even though 70, but still Kamala for a dude his size.
That was diabetes, wasn't it?
Yeah, diabetes. He had to have his leg amputated, if I remember right, or rather.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even though he did live to 70, his life was fucked up before he died. I mean, like I said, he lost his limbs, through diabetes and stuff like that. It's tragic, but he was his gimmick, world class.
Unfortunately, the last memory I have of him is his big fight with Don Marie and Wrestler's Rescue.
He never changed his gimmick, did he? He always remained that.
Yeah, he always. I don't think the worst thing they ever did was when they turned him babyface. I remember that. I was like, why would you do that? I was like, Kamala's a top heel. You could totally make him a dominant monster. But then with the Undertaker, you have him come in, have him beat Kamala, and that was kind of it.
We have our King Kong Bundy at 61, and that's very young in my opinion. How did he pass away, Chio?
King Kong Bundy, trying to get down to the 60s here. Okay, King Kong Bundy where's KO? Complications from diabetes.
Damn.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
From diabetes.
Also, a recognizable big man. Probably in the shadow of Andre the Giant throughout his career. But still a recognizable big man of the early age. 61, way too young. Any of you guys want to say anything about him? I'll start with you, Shredder.
Yeah, well, back in the day, I mean, when he was doing the whole 5-count thing, I mean, that was phenomenal to watch. Him just crushing people and insisting that the referee counts to 5. It's unfortunate he never learned to adapt when he went throughout his career. After he lost at WrestleMania to Hogan, then it all was pretty much downhill for him. He tried to have a comeback in the mid-90s, and again, he was trying to do the 5-count thing, but at that time, audience just didn't care.
Yeah. Jose?
Yeah, I remember King Kong Bundy. He was actually the inspiration for Married with Children. That's something that a lot of people don't.
Yes, he was.
Al Bundy.
Yeah. And he's been on the shows a few times.
Yeah, and they were going to do a spinoff with King Kong Bundy, but it never materialized. It would have been decent for a TV show. I would have. I've also
heard he's one of the nice guys in
good dude
backstage as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on now to probably one of the more, I say shocking in the sense that he was so fucking young.
Yeah.
I mean, by this time, I already knew wrestlers were dying anyway. And there were so many that died in their 30s, but to die in your 20s and to be looking like Lance Cade did, it was just unheard of. It was just unimaginable that somebody who looked like him would die at 29 years old. How did he pass away, Chico?
Drug overdose. So, I mean, these young guys, like the young guys, I mean, a lot of them are like under 30. A lot of them are suicide. It's one of them's like drowning in bathtub. Like, I'm just kind of looking through these. It's like, I'm sure he had some kind of like drugs in him when he drowned in his bathtub, drug overdose, suicide, heart failure, there's just a lot of, I mean, in these younger years, it's not really like heart failure and diabetes and everything like that. It's all, suicide and drug overdose.
Yeah.
Jose, how did you feel when you heard Lance Cade died?
When Lance Cade died, I was pissed because Shawn Michaels was the one that trained him. Shawn Michaels was the one that, vouched for him. And Chris Jericho, I remember that they were going to do something with Chris Jericho, Lance Cade, and HBK, but even that never materialized. And it's sad, because Lance Cade was one of those dudes that could work. He actually had good matches with most of the guys that he worked with. And I was pretty upset about that when I heard that he passed.
Yep, Shredder?
Yeah, Lance, I think that same year, actually, that he died, he had been working a program where he was Jericho's lackey.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan, I think, was that they were going to eventually turn him babyface against Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
But he was such a train wreck that he got released. He went to Japan and started wrestling there. He was working alongside Rene Dupree for a while. And it looked like he was potentially going to get his shit together. It's just unfortunate he never did, and he had so many different medications in him when he passed away.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some wrestlers here who tend to live
The one that's right next to him though, La Parka, dead at 55. That's not the original La Parka.
Yeah,
that needs to
I
be.
have no idea who La Parker is.
He's a
La Parka was
luchador
he was a luchador who was in WCW, the chairman of WCW.
Yep.
Okay.
And also he had, and I was looking at it. He had liver and lung. What was it? I just had it. 55. He had, I think it was liver and heart failure. And in the ring, it says.
Damn.
Yeah, he died in the ring. The original La Parka is still wrestling as L.A. Park for MLW.
Yeah, that's La Parquita that died, not La Parka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did he go?
Okay.
I just had him.
They did that.
Yeah, lung and kidney failure, and he died in the ring.
Yeah.
Highlight this. Somebody says Bandit says I just found out about Luke Harper. Or is he dead? Wouldn't be surprised. Louis Spicoli, I don't know who this is, but 27 years old, seems to be very young. He looks
I know.
a bit
I
like
know
Chris
that name
Farley.
from somewhere. Wasn't he in WCW?
He had stints in WWF, ECW, and it was WCW he was in when he passed away.
And it was a drug overdose. So yeah.
Oh, he was an absolute mess. There's so many stories of him being absolutely off his face.
Yeah, he was off his rocker.
But WCW, he was being brought. He was brought in. I think at the time he was working as like a lackey to Scott Hall because he was trying to get into the NWO.
Yes, the Wyatt family Harper passed away. Yeah,
Isn't that
Luke
Brodie Lee?
Harper's dead, yeah.
Yeah.
Brodie Lee, yeah.
Yeah, Brodie Lee.
We talked about him.
Luke Harper. We've already spoken about him.
Yeah,
we've already spoken about him. So now I'm gonna sound like a male pig right now, but this person is what I would call a butterface. Everything's good, butterface, and that was Luna Vachon because she had a great rack on her, but unfortunately she is passed away. She died at 48 years old.
Yeah,
amazing gimmick. Yeah, she I give her a lot of credit for pulling off this crazy wild woman and marking her face the way she did and putting her hair the way she did. I mean, that's a lot of dedication for the gimmick. How did she pass away, Cousin Cheeto?
Drug overdose. I'm telling you, that is 90%. I love how you're like, how original. Like that is 90% of these is some kind of either drug overdose or complications from drugs in the like later down the line.
Yeah,
I mean, she tragically lost everything in a natural disaster as well. Her home was pretty much destroyed.
Oh man,
Andre the Giant. That's something a lot of people don't know. Well, unless you watch the Andre documentary.
Well, I'm going to move on. Marina Komlos. Now, I don't know who she is, but she died at 34 years old. Shred, you got any information on this? Sorry, go on, Jose.
No,
or one of you two.
What was she brought? What didn't she portray? No, I'm trying to remember. Was she Cloudy, or was she with Beaver Cleavage?
Beaver Cleavage. Yeah.
Beaver Cleavage. Right.
Beaver Cleavage.
Yeah.
And she was Beaver Cleavage's valet, and she was gone shortly afterwards when they ditched the angle and they tried to do some domestic violence stuff.
And then the PTC came in and said, "Fuck that, we ain't."
Yeah, and it got dropped fairly quickly.
Yep.
And she had basically a cup of coffee in the business.
Her name is Beaver Cleavage.
No. Beaver Cleavage was the gimmick of Headbanger Mosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Was he playing like some sort of like autistic sort of boy?
No, it was like an it was Vince McMahon's idea of like an X-rated version of Leave It to Beaver, which is a American sitcom.
Okay, I want to move on.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Matt Rosie, I was talking to to Cousin Cheetah. This is Roman Reigns' brother. Is that correct? Rosie.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately,
sure.
And Umaga was his tag team partner when they were Jamal and Rosie back in the day. Umaga's also passed on, but Rosie, I believe Umaga was the cousin, But apart from Samoa Joe, they're all fucking cousins. Matt Rosie died at 47. How did he pass away, Cousin Cheeto?
Congestive heart failure.
Yeah, it's usually the fatter ones die of heart failure and diabetes and shit
I
like
mean,
that.
the heart works hard for a long time, but I mean, you know, if go ahead.
Say, Cousin Cheeto, the check comes due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been really hard on Roman, to lose his brother.
Yeah.
Like that. And being in the industry himself, knowing that could happen to him, and he himself going through leukemia. Shredder, anything to say about Rosie?
Yeah, I mean, he was decent big man. It's just unfortunate that they lumbered him with a comedy gimmick as the superhero in training.
Hurricane, I remember.
Yeah, I would have much preferred him. I quite liked him in 3 Minute Warning. I think those guys should have been like a monster heel tag team.
Yeah.
I remember that Bishop brought him in. And you got 3 minutes, and people would be like going absolutely fucking nuts over that shit. Yeah, they always miss a trick, WWE. They really do. Or sometimes they don't like the fact that certain people are getting over. I really think they hate that. They really hate people they don't want to get over getting over.
You ain't getting over.
Yeah.
Tell you getting over. That's how this works.
So Jose, what have you got to say about Rosie?
Yeah, Rosie, he was one of the underrated big men, Shredder just said, and he and Jamal Umaga could have been a monster heel dominant tag team that the Dudleys could have eventually got through. If you would have stretched it out and did an old school slow burn kind of angle, it would have been perfect. But, WWE had to go and fuck it up. It's what they do.
It's unfortunate WWE at that time didn't really have a lot of tag teams, because if you remember, they had split most of their tag teams in the draft. I mean, the APA were split, the Dudleys were split, the Hardys were split. At the time, I think the only team that the 3 Minute Warning really went up against during their initial run when they were starting to go over it was Billy and Chuck.
Yeah, Billy and Chuck, and they lasted, for a cup of coffee too, and then
they lasted almost a year. It was only after they really pushed it to the extreme and said they were going to do the commitment ceremony.
Oh yeah, and then
and then they had to come out and reveal that no, these guys are not actually gay.
Yeah,
with Rico, their fucking manager, hairstylist.
Yeah.
I remember all of that shit. Anyway, let's move on now. This is the first version of Doink the Clown, I believe. Matt Osborne.
Yep, the OG.
Died at 55. I loved Doink the Clown. I loved him as a heel because he started off as a heel.
Oh, he was perfect as a heel.
He was perfect as a heel.
Yep.
And I despised when they made him face because they never turned him heel ever again. I mean, the whole character of Doink the Clown remained the face ever since, and it pissed me off. Heel Doink is the fucking best.
Agreed.
Dink.
Yes.
What a waste that was.
Okay, so let's move on from that. Mike Awesome, that 70s man.
This one,
unfortunately, didn't live till 70. Unfortunately, here's a guy who never got to make a career in wrestling the way he should have, or hopefully he wanted to. Wait, you got something to say, Jose?
Yeah, this is the one that really pissed me off in the year of 2007 when it seemed like everybody died, because Mike Awesome, he was just one of those dudes in ECW. He was a monster. And Paul Heyman, I think, kind of jobbed him out over that controversy of Mike Awesome went to WCW with the belt, and then he had to drop it to Taz a couple days later at a house show or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, after that, he went to WCW and became the 70s guy and the fat chick thriller and all that bullshit, and they just did not know what the fuck with him. And in the invasion angle, he didn't even last that long. He was the first person that actually showed up throughout that invasion angle.
I remember.
Not quite. Lance Storm, I think, was the first to show up, but Mike Awesome was the first to really to win a title, because he won the hardcore title from Rhino.
Yeah, he did.
Okay,
and he passed away. He passed away via suicide. So I mean, probably just career issues and everything like that.
Well,
one job too many.
His wife was actually in the process of divorcing him, and I think that was the final straw. She was
probably.
She was like, "I'm out of here. Happy with where we're going."
Now, I want to quickly jump onto this one because this one's quite controversial. This was also mentioned Darkseid, but I knew about this, but Darkseid fleshed it out. Miss Elizabeth. Now, apparently, I believe she died of a drug overdose at Lex Luger's house.
Yep.
This was unbelievable at the time. Her and Luger were having an affair or having a relationship, however you want to look at it. 42 years of age.
They'd entered a relationship in the final couple of years of WCW. Liz's marriage to Randy Savage was already over.
Yeah, it was already gone. Like they divorced, I think 10 years before that or around.
She was scared to at first even mention the fact that she and Luger were together.
Yeah, because she didn't know how Randy would handle it. Because Randy, he was still under contract, I think, until at least 2000, I want to say.
Yeah, imagine if you saw them two together, that macho madness would have come out proper.
Yeah. You know? But I mean, it's unfortunate that Luger and Liz were both they were both as messed up as they were. Unfortunately, it was a toxic relationship.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, I can look at the point of view from Elizabeth's family. They viewed the wrestling business as what took their daughter from them. So I can understand why they don't want her ever going into the Hall of Fame.
She, and I remember, if I remember right, like I think they were taking somas, and it's like you could take a couple somas and feel fine, but they took too many somas and then wine, and then that ended up killing Elizabeth.
It's just unfortunate. WWE Confidential, if you remember that show, it was almost like CSI Stanford. It's unfortunate the way they portrayed it. They got hold of the 911 call of Lex Luger frantically calling an ambulance, begging them to come out and help her. That was unfortunate. It was one of the worst things WWE ever did.
Yeah, but this is not surprising knowing WWE because
it's true.
Kings of exploiting shit.
Bandit, see you later, mate. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm going to quickly move on to Nancy Benoit. Now, we already spoken about Chris Benoit, and we do know that she died at the hands of Chris Benoit. But I don't want to go on about her death. I just want to know, was she ever a wrestler?
I mean, she was a valet.
I know that. Did she ever get in the ring?
I don't believe she ever did.
No, I don't. Nope. She was strictly a valet.
Yeah, she was brought in. I think wasn't it Kevin Sullivan that brought her in?
Yeah. He set up his own divorce.
That's the infamous story that Kevin Sullivan's the guy who booked his own divorce.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yes.
Divorce.
He's Scottish. That's why, Bandits. Okay, so on to New Jack. Now, I thought he was 50, but he was 58 when he died. Look at those scars on his head, man. It's unbelievable.
This was one that wasn't surprising, though.
100%.
Not surprising, but fucking nuts as it is.
Realest and craziest wrestler on this list, without a doubt. I say that with no hesitation. The craziest motherfucker we will ever see. Period.
Yeah.
How many guys? How many wrestlers do you know of who stabbed opponents repeatedly and still got booked?
Yeah, for real. That's why I say Jack is the craziest wrestler you're going to see on this entire list. Because he also beat up a 70-year-old man, Gypsy Joe.
Yep.
I remember.
Saw that one.
Yep.
I saw that, yeah. I can't handle
the aluminium baseball bat right up into his head.
Yep.
All for calling him the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. How did he die, Gio?
Heart attack.
Yeah.
Are you surprised the amount of cocaine that man did?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all.
And, I mean, all the drugs he was probably on, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he had to step away from the ring for quite a long time. I know he made a comeback in the last couple of years doing like the odd show here and there, but he had to step away from the ring because he was on so much heart medication.
Now, talking of hearts, we have Owen Hart here. Now, we briefly mentioned him earlier, but for me, this is
the saddest one on the list to me.
This guy didn't need to die like this. It wasn't drugs. This was pure accident, something that he shouldn't have been involved in. He is a wrestler. Yeah, that's what he's paid to do. Yep. Yeah, if he doesn't feel comfortable being, abseil down from a fucking building, then he shouldn't have to do it. That's not what he's being paid for. And the fact that they made him do that is tragic. The fact that the Hearts don't have this person still around to add to the Hart legacy is all on Bret now. Without Owen Hart there's no dynamic of the fun side of the Hart family anymore. And it's a real shame. And Bret was always a miserable git. His brother dying is going to make him more of a miserable git. It's one of the worst. He died on my birthday, for fuck's sake. He died on my fucking birthday. This one hit me really hard. Let's quickly mention, we've already spoken about it briefly, but I'll start with you, Jose. You got anything to say?
The death that I have not gotten over, and honestly never will. I still haven't, and it's been 22 years. I wish, looking in retrospect, I wish Vince would have let him go. If he would have just said, no, I'm not doing the stunt, I wish Owen would have got his release papers. It would have been worth it, I think. I mean, I get that wrestling, you make great money, but no dream is really worth it.
I personally believe, Jose, that they're all when you hear his family talk about how he wanted to do this, that, and the other outside of the ring, I personally believe that if he was still alive today, maybe not now, but in the last 20 years or so, he would have come back on several occasions because he's fucking Owen Hart and he draws money. You know what I mean? He's a natural in the ring. If he was alive, he would still have opportunities to wrestle, and that's never going to fucking happen again. And it breaks my heart. It really does. No pun intended.
They would have DVDs on him. They would have gotten, more than likely, Bret would have came back to the WWE that much sooner, I think, had Owen still been alive. I think that Montreal could have all been resolved that much sooner. We wouldn't have had to wait until 2010 to see Bret Hart officially back in WWE. It would have happened that much sooner. Can you imagine the pop Bret would have gotten in 2005 that he actually showed up in Montreal when Shawn was cutting that heel promo in Canada? Fucking legendary.
Yeah. Shred?
What an utter tragedy. I mean, here was a guy who he didn't have a drug issue. He wasn't juiced up on steroids. He was pretty much one of the best in-ring workers that the WWF at the time had. He was pretty much one of the top workers in the entire business at that point. Here's a guy who really should have at some point been the WWF champion. Unfortunately, never held it. And part of that, unfortunately, in the final part of his career, may have something to do with the fact that Steve Austin was holding the belt. I don't think they ever properly reconciled over the neck injury that Austin received from that botched pile driver. But it's a shame. I mean, Owen wound up doing the Blue Blazer just purely because he was a family man. They were pitching the idea that he was going to have this love triangle with Jeff Jarrett and Deborah. And the proposed angle was that Deborah was going to be rubbing Owen Hart's crotch and trying to seduce him, and Owen didn't want his kids seeing that. He really did not want to try and have to explain to his family, to his young children, that no, this is all play acting. I'm still in love with your mother. I'm not doing this with this other woman.
Yeah.
And because he'd said no to so much, that's why they eventually stuck him as the Blue Blazer. And
I think
rather than just let Owen be the best fucking wrestler on that entire roster, they put him in this goofy gimmick, and look what happened.
Yep. And I can remember, I think the day that he died, around the day that he died, he actually traveled with a fan, and Vince called him, or one of the guys called him and said, you got 15 minutes to get your ass back here to practice this, or you're no longer in the WWF. And looking back, I wish Owen would have just said, okay, fuck it, I'm out. And his life would have been saved.
Or even if they'd let Owen go after Montreal.
Yeah, or even if
Owen go. Owen did want out, but they kept him under contract and bumped him up to $400,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stop being concerned about my goddamn sleep, man. I'm totally fine, bandits. Okay, so we're on to Petey Mavia now. I mentioned him because not only is The Rock's granddad, but he also died at the age of 45. It was amazing. Like, only when I found out he was Petey Mavia, and then I ended up watching Goldfinger again, and I thought to myself, holy shit, that henchman James Bond is fighting is Rock's fucking granddad. Who's Peter fucking Mavia. That's brilliant, just to know that family's legacy, in television and movies and stuff, it just goes back decades. But 45 years of age, how did he pass away, Cousin Cheeto?
Cancer.
That's terrible.
It doesn't specify which, but it just says cancer.
Peter Mavia, anything you know about him you'd like to mention, Shredder?
No, I actually don't really know a whole hell of a lot about Peter Mavia's career, unfortunately.
Jose?
No, but I am going to bring up Pat Patterson just for the behind-the-scenes contributions that he brought to the business, creating the Royal Rumble and being the king of finishes. One of the old, despite the fucking ring girl scandal that happened.
He was one of the first people to come out as gay within the WWE as well, and it's a good thing because he helped pave the way to stop the discrimination against gay people. What's his face? Black John Cena. He came out as gay. What was his name again?
Darren Young.
Darren Young. Yeah.
Patterson. It was known he was gay for years. I mean, it was one of the worst kept secrets in the business.
Everybody knew. We all knew. Yeah. Even before the internet.
I didn't know, but the funny thing is, this is how I look at WWE as a business. The moment he came out, I thought to myself, shit, I hope he doesn't get punished, or I hope he doesn't get given some stupid gimmick because now he's gay, because that's how the WWE operate. So I'm glad that wasn't the case. I'm not sure about not being punished. He might have been because we don't see him anymore. Randy Savage, 58 years of... Oh, sorry, by the way, Cousin Cheeto, you want to say anything about Peter Mavia?
No, I don't know anything. I mean, besides that he's The Rock's granddad, I don't know much else beyond about that.
Okay. Randy Savage, 58. How did he die again? It was a heart attack.
I think it was a heart attack behind the wheel. Hold on, I'm getting to him now. Right. But yeah, I want to say it was a heart attack behind the wheel, and I mean, post-mortem. I think another thing we forgot to mention too is cardiovascular disease.
Actually,
it does say cardiovascular disease.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys have enlarged hearts, just brought on so much stress and work.
But I'm pretty sure I remember the story about him just dying behind the wheel, and I think he was with his wife. Was that right, in the car, and they just kind of drove off the road on accident,
he hit into a tree,
right into a tree. It's been 10 years. I'll never forget that day.
What a tragedy! Because I mean, he had just reconciled with WWE. He was starting to do promo work for them again.
He did the video game. He did the WWE All Stars video game. That was
May
20th, 2011. Yeah, it's been 10 years. Holy cow! I can't believe it's been that long.
Did promo work for action figures for them. I mean, he
so close. We were away from him going in the Hall of Fame.
It was.
Oh, could you imagine Randy Savage's speech at the Hall of Fame?
It would have been great. It would have been definitely the greatest of all time.
I think personally, the first 10 years of the WWE's tenure, I think he's the best wrestler they've ever had in that period. I know it's a massive statement to make, but
he was the total package.
Total package. I was about to say that as well.
He was, he was a great in-ring technician. He was flamboyant. You could not take your eyes off of him. He had the promos. He was the complete package.
His only flaw was trying to top Steamboat. Because remember how he would always do the DDP thing, where he would go over everything. Like Savage, he was one of those dudes that he had to plan.
Got carried away
every spot. And his greatest regret was I never topped that Steamboat match.
I thought his greatest regret was jumping over the top rope in the Royal Rumble when he was supposed to be in the last four.
Yeah,
I mean,
here's one of the few guys that could carry Ultimate Warrior to a decent match.
I wanted to say that Shredder, because I watched that match again, and I forgot how good that match was for Warrior, and Warrior had to go. That was a long match for as far as Warrior is concerned.
Mm.
And he put Warrior over like a motherfucker. The way Warrior, that's the greatest pin, by the way. Warrior's pin is the greatest pin in wrestling.
Yeah,
Yeah, and, yeah, that was an amazing match. You can get a match out of anybody.
It's a shame throughout his career, Randy Savage never had a really lengthy world title run.
Yeah, the longest he had it.
Yeah.
And then he dropped it to fuck stick, and then after that, it was never the same.
I want to move on to this guy because is Rick Bogner the
fake Razor Ramon?
Fake Razor Ramon, because that's the first thing I thought of when I saw him.
Yeah, he's fake Razor.
Fake Razor. Now, WWE, this is what bugs me. Yeah, WWE were worried about. This was like a period where, like, the lines of kayfabe were getting blurred. Now, like, people were starting to get an idea if this is not really actually real. It's staged and stuff like that. But this is before the the clique got together in that famous video footage and stuff like that, and they brought out people like this dude and fucking Glenn Jacobs, fucking Diesel as replacements for Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. I mean, people are going to think wrestling's fake when you do that shit, for fuck's sake, and try to package them as fucking Razor Ramon and Diesel. Ridiculous. Rest in peace, Rick Bogner, but that's ridiculous. Go on.
Fucking thing about this, though, was like WCW actually had Raw on while they were filming. And then right there, they had the lawyers for Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and then they ended up signing deal memos while that was happening, because the fucks at WCW actually thought that Nash and Hall would go back to WWE, and they ended up getting an extra $500,000 from it. I'm like, yeah, that was the crazy story about the fake Razor and Diesel angle.
I mean, there was a couple of things that led into this. I mean, the fact that there was the lawsuit against WCW because Hall and Nash, when they first went to WCW, were acting like Razor and Diesel. So they had to stop doing that. And Vince McMahon got it into his head that he owns the likeness of Razor Ramon and Diesel. So he was pushing that on TV for weeks that, he's going to bring Razor and Diesel back to the WWF.
Mm-hmm. And then that's how Kevin Nash and Scott ended up getting that $500,000. And I think they got like a 4-year extension, didn't they? Yeah,
I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
Now one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
It was one of the dumbest things. I really don't get it. But Vince somehow got it into his head that this would be entertaining, and he went ahead and did it.
He thought he could pull the wool over people's eyes. He's that stupid, in my opinion. He's that vain.
No, I don't think he actually thought he was going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. This was just to get like a cheap ratings pop. The idea that we're going to bring back Hall and Nash, when, wait a minute, Hall and Nash are working for the WCW, and then they technically said, no, we didn't say we were bringing back Hall and Nash. We said we were bringing back Razor Ramon and Diesel. Yeah. I can package whoever I want as Razor Ramon and Diesel because I own these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then like I said, then you're like kind of announcing that wrestling's fake when the kayfabe was still alive back then. I just really felt it was a counterproductive, but I guess Vince, that's how his brain works at times. I want to move on. Rick Rude, 40 years old. How did he die, Gio?
Heart failure.
Look at the guys. The guy's a fucking specimen. I mean, even after his injury, he still looked like he was in great shape. And to die at 40 years old.
And he was training for an in-ring comeback.
Yeah, he was going to come back to WCW.
Well, no, he wasn't going to come back to WCW because Bischoff wasn't prepared to pay off the Lloyds of London claim.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I find the character of Rick Rude, the fact that his name is actually Rick Rude, to be great for a start. I also find the fact that he is a fucking Bible-bashing religious Christian playing a fucking porn star pre-fucking Val Venus type gimmick.
I was going to say, he's the proto Val Venus. I mean,
exactly, and all of that, gyrating, making out with women all the fucking time and shit. This guy, like this, there are some people whose gimmicks are great because they're an extension of their personalities, and then some people who just make a fucking gimmick work so well you think it's their personality. And Rick Rude is the fucking dog's bollocks, man, because this is nothing like him. This is nothing like him at all.
And Vince would have. You would fucking think Vince would have been smart to pull the trigger on this guy too.
Yeah. Especially after the way he carried Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
you would think
he's a great wrestler as well.
This is a guy who could have a great run as a heel champion.
Yep.
Bret Hart's told the story though as well about Rude. You were talking about the gimmick. I mean, Rude never even took off his wedding ring. He would tape it up.
Yep. He was faithful to his wife. He was one of those dudes that, he was a family guy. He never did anything dirty to his family. And then I can remember, that SummerSlam cage match where Roddy Piper was the pro face commentator, but in that match, he was rooting for Rick Rude because nobody liked the Ultimate Warrior back then, but we'll be getting there.
There's that horrible story. I don't know if you guys have heard from Jake Roberts, a rib that he pulled on Rick Rude.
No, go on.
No, go ahead.
Rick Rude would bring a woman in and give her a kiss and lay her onto the mat in the middle of the ring. If you remember that part of the gimmick, he'd bring a woman in from the crowd. He'd give her a kiss and lay her out in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
Now the woman in question was actually getting paid to be there. It was a pretty woman was picked out and she was paid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was about $200-300. And one of the women picked was not Rude's wife. Not Jake Roberts' wife. Although they did that for an angle, but a rat he had been with in a town. So not only was she going to get the $200 as a rib. Before this happened, she blew Jake Roberts backstage.
Not surprising.
And then went in and did the kiss spot with Rick Rude.
Not surprising.
Rude wound up with a mouthful of Jake Roberts.
That's hilarious.
Oh God, that is the best. That is the best.
Don't ever Google what wrestlers did. Kids. Don't ever Google what they did because the shit you'll find out.
There's a rib, and then there's that. You know what I mean? Like you can, you know what I mean? You might make a joke where you throw some water on your mate and stuff like that. They'll get dry, but making a weird way of putting your own semen in your friend's mouth. No, that's not right. That's not right at all. Anyone else got any more to say about Rick Rude? Fellas, legend, absolute legend.
Absolutely, yeah. Really should have been a world champion.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and died at 40 years old. The guy's younger than me, by 4 years, and he's gone.
Unfortunately, 93, his career was ended because of that one unfortunate bump in Japan.
Road Warrior Animal 60, unlike his partner, who we'll get onto in a second.
I was going to start with Hulk. Hulk died. But
what Road Warrior Animal did, go on to a reasonably good age, I guess, but 60 still too young. He had his demons too, nothing like his tag team partner, I guess. But how did he pass away, Cousin Cheetah?
Both the Road Warriors passed away from heart attacks or heart issues.
I'm sure, like the hard life that, it just goes to show that the life that they lived will catch up with you, and it caught up with him. Anything to say about Animal before we move on to Hawk, Shredder? Animal is again not surprising that he died at 60. Bodybuilders do not live to their 70s and 80s for the most part, and when you've been doing steroids and human growth hormone in particular and putting that much strain on your heart, he's lucky to have made it as long as he did. Jose?
Yeah, if you were to take either Hulk or Animal and just keep them as they were as a singles wrestler, as just that badass smash mouth kind of wrestler, either one of these guys could have easily been a world champion with their size and with how intimidating they were, and they were good on the microphone. But
I don't think they ever would have worked as singles competitors. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
I mean, even it's like the Dudley Boys. I mean, Bubba Ray had a okay run in TNA under Bully Ray.
Yeah,
but I mean, look, where's Devon? And Bubba's not had, and Bubba Ray's not had anything. So I mean,
this is where I disagree. Like, what it is that for these two guys to go singles, they got to kind of change their gimmick. They can't be looking like Legion of Doom Road Warriors. And I give Animal credit; he did change his gimmick when he was a singles guy just after the Heidenreich experiment ended. But when I'm just going to go on to Hawk now. When I saw Career and Collision in Korea, and I see Hawk having that singles match, it just looked wrong. It just looked wrong. It looked wrong without Animal being next to him. And if he was ever going to go singles, he shouldn't be doing it looking like that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you'd have to change their look up. I get what you guys are saying, but yeah, with Hawk, he lived.
HBK, like HBK's another one. Like he was the Rockers, but the moment he left, he became HBK, and he was nothing like the Rockers.
Yep.
These guys were best in the tag division, namely because it could hide their weaknesses, and they would be with at least one great worker. Pretty much most tag teams, you've got one great worker. These guys, Hawk and Animal, no disrespect, it was a fantastic gimmick, but they were not the best workers. They were just smash mouth meatheads.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to put these guys against somebody like a Ricky Morton, a Ric Flair, a Bobby Eaton.
Now Hawk was the tragic one out of the two. Like he spiraled out of control. I mean,
lived a life. That's all really be said about him. He could have
had a life, because at 46 he didn't really live much. He's only 2 years older than me.
But I mean,
he's dead.
Like drugs and rock and roll and all that hardcore.
Yeah, but you look at Animal. He's got 14 years on him. He lived a similar life, but Animal. No. I mean, no. All I'm trying to say, or like on the road, being party animals and stuff like that, rock and rollers. But he wasn't a junkie, in the extent like the way Hawk was.
Hawk was probably the crazy one out of the two of them, because he like Vicodin and Percocet and Somas and all like the crazy shit, and it was no wonder when Hawk died the way he did, and he just couldn't control his demons, and that's what killed him.
He's another one. We mentioned Davey Boy Smith earlier, and the fact that he had smoked crack the night before SummerSlam. Hawk had done the same thing. I mean, you watched that tag match that they had at SummerSlam. It was the Road Warriors against Money Inc.
Yeah.
And Hawk is barely in that match because Animal has to carry the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember that match. They couldn't even do the traditional finish.
No, they couldn't do the Doomsday Device, so Animal had to win it with the Power Slam.
Yeah, which felt. I always remember how wrong that felt. At the time. AJ says an event for life, not a long one. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick. Here's somebody I'm dying to talk about. Yeah. Is Roddy Piper, because I watched his documentary today, the A&E biography. I watched it today, and I fucking loved it. This guy is the man who helped make Hulk Hogan, the guy who he is today, because he was the top heel at the time. And it's absolutely crazy that when WWE was just in its ascendancy, he decides to take a break and goes into Hollywood, makes They Live, and then eventually comes back, wins his first fucking title in the WWE as Intercontinental Champion, and then has probably the greatest match of his life against Bret Hart to put him over. And he really puts Bret Hart over in every way possible, even putting the belt around his fucking waist. And to that level,
too, Roddy had that reputation for not doing jobs. That's something people know.
And
he rarely put over people clean in the ring unless he really
he kind of regrets not putting over Mr. T at the time. But I also saw, like, way back before the WWE, like, he was wrestling. I mean, for a start, the guy can genuinely play the bagpipes. I would love to have seen, and this is the funny thing, I would love to have seen more of him in Scotland in this documentary, because I know Scottish people fucking love him. Correct, Shredder?
Yes, he was over here briefly for a show for a promotion in Dundee called Scottish Wrestling Entertainment. There is a fantastic photograph of him. They took him on a tour of a local castle, and there was an old wooden throne there. You're not supposed to sit on it. I mean, there's a rope, it's roped off. You're not supposed to be in it. Piper just breezed right over and sat right on this throne.
Yeah. And he's not remotely he's not remotely Scottish in any capacity, is he?
No. He's Canadian.
I know that, but in the sense that his ancestry doesn't go back to Scotland in any capacity.
I don't believe so. No. But again, at the time when he came over here, though, he was working against Ted DiBiase.
Yeah. And like I said, like I saw when I was watching that biography, and then like he gets the bagpipes and he's in this either a Mexican arena or a Latin American area, and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Mexican national anthem, and he plays La Cucaracha on the bagpipes. The guy and he thought he was about to die and everything. Like, the guy is a fucking genius, and oh god, he's like we think about quick-witted people who have to say, being a wrestler, you have to think on your feet. You gotta be very witty verbally as well as physically, and he was that, that famous phrase that everybody uses now. I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. That has become a proper catchphrase. He has created that, John Carpenter appreciated that. This guy's fucking, he's so fucking good, man. He's so fucking good. Did stand-up comedy as well, for a little while, because he's just such a talented man, and he's so sorely missed. 61 is just way too young.
And it was unfortunate in the final couple of years. You could tell his mind was going.
Yeah, you saw that interview.
He wasn't as lucid as he had been in the past.
He knew. He knew. Because if you watch that HBO clip, he was like, I'm going to be straight. I'm not making it to 65. He knew he wasn't going to make it, because he was like, I can't a pension plan until I'm 65. I'm not going to make 65. And he knew it. And you could see his mind just going and listen to, like, I don't know if y'all remember when he had a podcast back in the day.
The Rod Pod.
Yeah. He had the Hot Rod podcast, and he just would ramble on, and it was like, yeah, Roddy wasn't there.
Because he recorded an episode here in Scotland. He got access to a radio studio in Dundee at the time, and he recorded an episode here.
I was watching that documentary today. I was absolutely blown away by this man. I never knew what a massive career he had in the industry. I knew he was a very popular wrestler, but
they apparently embellished some stuff. They apparently embellished some stuff, and because some of it was from Roddy's own mouth, and he wasn't all that reliable at the time when they got some of this information. But Roddy Piper's career was incredible.
Yes,
I think Hogan has spoken about that, though, that he and Roddy became friends, and one of Roddy's biggest regrets years later was the fact that he never did a job for Hogan, because he could have become a world champion afterwards.
Yeah, they even joked about it.
Yeah,
that was surprising, actually. Surprising he never jobbed for Hogan.
Hogan teased about that later in life. Like, yeah, man, can you imagine if you would have jobbed to me? I would have put you over like 5 times. You would have been a 5-time world champion had you did one job for me, and you didn't. And Piper's like, fuck, I wish I would have done it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Anyway, he still leaves a lasting legacy, and for me, still to this day, with the amount of movies Dwayne Johnson's done, and even to a degree, Dave Bautista, the best film to have a wrestler in it is with Roddy Piper, and that's They Live.
Yep.
That's the best film to star a wrestler, in my opinion. I can't think of another film out at the moment that has a wrestler in it as a lead to be better than that movie. Would you guys suggest anyone? Anything Dwayne Johnson's done?
No.
No, not at all.
No, because Jesse Ventura even tried movies and they were rotten.
Yeah, but Jesse Ventura been in some good films as well, like. He wasn't the lead.
He was good. He was good in bit parts, but when he was the lead, he was rotten.
Yeah.
But I think I will say this: anybody who has got a desire to be a professional wrestler, if you want to learn how to be a heel, watch Roddy Piper.
Yeah, Roddy Piper is just the best. He's one of the best heels ever, man. Just absolutely fantastic. This one surprised me at the time. Sean O'Hare, 43 years of age. I mean, look at the guy. He's a specimen. And how did he die? Do you guys remember?
Overdose.
I think it was an overdose, yeah.
Ridiculous. I want to move on then quickly. Sorry.
I was just
okay,
I was just going to say Sean O'Hare just had that look that Vince loved, but Vince wasn't high on him, I guess.
He played the devil sort of character. That's all I remember about him. Never materialized.
He worked briefly with Roddy Piper in 2003. He and Piper were associated as a team.
Yep.
And then when Piper parted ways with the WWE over an interview he did, O'Hare kind of floundered. They did have him as like a devil's advocate style character, and he was encouraging people to carry out acts that they normally would not do. So he got Dawn Marie to like flash her tits at a crowd.
Yeah, and
nice.
Of course the PTC and religious groups got arms over that, and then that was it.
Okay, so this is one of those tragic ones again, where it was no fault of their own. Well, some people might say differently, but Shad Gaspard's death was...
His was sad. Not all heroes were...
Oh.
That's about Shad.
What a tragedy. Dying, saving the life of his child.
Yep.
When I hear like his corpse being washed up on the beach, it's like, I wanted to be sick.
Yeah.
I really did. It was good to see the wrestling community come together after he passed. But he seemed like a very talented guy, and I'm surprised he never had a bigger career in wrestling or outside of wrestling. Anything to say about Shad Gaspard before we move on? I'll start with you, D. Jose.
He was one of those dudes. He and JTG could have won the tag team titles and could have been a good tag team, but you know Vince, he fucking hates tag teams. And they turned...
He loves splitting them up, man.
Yeah, Shad turned heel for no reason and then literally went nowhere. And then he was gone.
And you would have expected out of the two, between him and JTG, Shad Gaspard would have been the one that would have been pushed to like a top mid-card.
Yeah, Shad would have got over. He would have been a good U.S. champion.
Yeah. Shred, anything to say?
Again, it's a horrible tragedy, the way that man died, unfortunately, and what a sad loss, not just to wrestling business, but the world in general. I mean, if you're going to die the way he did, I mean, WWE should have honored him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to give somebody the Warrior Award,
he should have.
Which as much as I hate the fact there's an award associated with the Ultimate Warrior, if they wanted to recognize him in some way, he should have got an award of some kind.
Yeah, now they're going to do it, and it'll be like, well, fucking finally. By the time they do it next year, that'll be the way it'll be. Sherry?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, Sherry. Sister Sherry. Hers was a tough one.
Yeah, Sherry Martel. I'm glad you brought her up. I was going to mention her. Great wrestler, great female manager, and I like the fact that she was there trying to keep Booker T all happy and stuff after he said the N-word to Hogan. You know, like she's a very good maternal figure. More, I see that in her around the male wrestlers, and she's just great. It's terrible. 49 years of age. I'm glad she got Hall of Famed. She is like she's there's more to her than meets the eye, and I very much appreciate that about her. And it's sad that she's not going to be around anymore. Shred?
Yeah, I mean, she was a wrestler back in the early days. She was a heck of a manager. I mean, Cornette has spoken about the fact that when he was winning the Manager of the Year awards from was it Pro Wrestling Illustrated or the Wrestling Observer? I can't remember which one. Sherry broke his streak, and he was more than happy for her to win it. I mean, Sherry Martel was, I think, a better manager than she was a wrestler. Let's be blunt. But good God, I mean, she was great with Harlem Heat. She was great with Shawn Michaels. She was great with Randy Savage.
She was one of those. She was one of those that struck gold with everyone she worked with, and you can't say that about managers with everybody. But Sister Sherry was one of those that works great with just about everybody that she ever managed. All the
correct.
she managed got over.
correct me if I'm wrong, didn't WWE not acknowledge her death at the time?
They did, but it was just like, I think, a graphic, and that was it. I don't think they went any further than that, which pissed me off.
Mm.
Okay, so we're going to skip a few guys here and go right to this gentleman here, Dr. Death.
Oh, his
Steve
was
Williams.
Leukemia.
Now he'll be more recognized for having the shit beaten out of him by Bart Gunn.
You mind if I because this one's actually kind of he actually went to my best friend's high school, Lakewood High School, right here in Colorado. And there's an action figure of him in the high school. And Dr. Death, he was one of those dudes that was lined up to work with Steve. It wasn't for the fucking Brawl for All tournament. The worst idea, arguably, in the history of the business.
Yeah, you can't be having wrestlers fighting each other for real. What the fuck are you thinking? So stupid. Like, properly actually injure each other. Are you stupid? You know, fucking put these guys on the bench for weeks.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Shred, you got anything to say?
I mean, what a tremendous shame. I mean, Steve Williams had a tremendous career in Japan. He had a great career in the United States in the early days, but unfortunately, the WWF, his career pretty much destroyed by the Brawl for All. Winds up going to work in WCW. Doesn't do really a whole heck of a lot of note there, other than work with Ed Ferrara doing that horrendous Oklahoma gimmick.
Mm.
And unfortunately, it pretty much ended his career. And Doc was smart. Dr. Death saved his money. I mean, he could have quite easily have retired and just walked away from the business back in about 1999. Unfortunately, though, with his, again, I think it was leukemia that he suffered from, the medical bills just kept piling up and piling up and piling up to where all of his money was gone within a couple of years.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Death, he was one of the smart guys, but I think, either leukemia or throat cancer, one of the two ended up getting him, and, it was just unfortunate when he passed.
Yeah, that wasn't a surprise. I didn't know he actually died until today. I just thought he disappeared off the radar. All right.
One of the legit toughest men in the business.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know anything about this guy, but his name just makes me laugh. He's called the Grand Wizard.
He goes way back. He's before.
Yeah.
He does look familiar with his turban on and these fucking.
Oh, you're going back to WWF days.
Yeah, this is way before like any of us were even.
Now, did you not know that he just called himself after a fucking leader of the racists?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know, but I vaguely remember this guy from like really old clips. But again, you're going back to like pre-Vince Jr. days of owning the WWF.
I thought you were going to mention Terry.
He died at 57.
I thought you were going to Terry Bam Bam Gordy for a minute. I'm surprised we went over him. That's one that people don't talk about.
Terry Gordy, please enlighten us, Jose.
Terry Gordy, Fabulous Freebirds, those that watch WCCW down in Texas.
Yes. I remember the Fabulous Freebirds, but fucking Michael fucking Hayes, P.S. Hayes, he was pretty much the Fabulous Freebirds for me. So the other guys kind of were in his shadow.
Yeah, but Terry Gordy, he was one of those dudes that could work for a big man his size. If you go back and watch like the old school Texas wrestling, stuff with Levon Ericks and, he came to WWE. A lot of people don't know. He came to WWE as the Executioner in 1996 in that Buried Alive match between Undertaker and Mankind. And then after that, Terry Gordy was gone. He died of a heart attack at 40.
40 years old is just ridiculously young.
It's unfortunate that he suffered brain damage. I can't remember if it was on a flight from Japan to the United States, or if it was due to an overdose on drugs. But he suffered severe permanent brain damage, and after I think about 92, 93, he was just gone. He wasn't the same Terry Gordy as everyone remembered from his prime.
I want to mention this guy, the fake Ultimate Warrior, the Renegade.
The Renegade.
The Renegade. But I'm surprised he's dead. I didn't know he was dead. 33 years old.
Suicide, I think.
Suicide.
He didn't get his push.
Suicide because he couldn't get his career going. Because Hulk Hogan had to open up his fucking mouth at WCW Uncensored and be like, I got a surprise, and it's not the Ultimate Warrior, and he basically gave it away. And it was like, why would you do that? Another fuck up of Hulk Hogan and WCW, but I thought the Renegade was a decent worker. It's just too bad that he couldn't get his career going.
Yeah, but you end up being like a poor man's Ultimate Warrior. You could be the greatest worker on the planet, but that's always gonna stick in people's teeth.
Yeah, so it's a career killer. It's like Rick Bogner and the Fake Razor.
Yeah,
at least with Glenn Jacobs, after he'd done Isaac Yankem and Diesel, they did the right thing and stuck him under a mask.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to quickly jump on, and there are maybe some recognizable names like Tiny Lister here and stuff, but I'm going to move on straight on to the real Ultimate Warrior. And we saw his, we've all had the chance to talk about him, except for you, Jose, but we saw his, both his biographies last week. What do you want to say about Ultimate Warrior, Jose?
One whitewashed him, and one, they tried to tell the truth as best they could. But Warrior, yeah, he was an asshole. He was not the easiest dude to work with back then. If you ask most people, he was not friendly. Warrior is. Yeah, go ahead.
I heard that the people who make Dark Side of the Ring, people in Vice, were not happy with their overall production of that episode because they felt that they took it easy on Warrior.
Yeah, they did.
They wanted to try and give. They said they wanted to give him a ballot episode, but in hindsight, after watching what A&E gave, they pretty much treaded over the same things, but also gave the first wise point of view.
Yeah.
I agreed with Brian Last's analysis of it, which is probably they could have removed the whole section with Jake Roberts and focused because his ex-wife dominated the big portion of the Vice documentary. If they'd stuck with her and spoke about other things like his political career, his disgusting views on black people, on calling Darren Drozdov a cripple, on Native Americans, on gay people, and
I personally think, Shredder, that someone like Warrior warranted the 2-hour episode. Like, there's too much to cover.
Yeah, Warrior would have been at least a 2-parter.
Yeah. It would have been absolutely should have been a 2-parter, much like the Benoit tragedy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! I mean, look, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to belittle Brian Pillman here because he's worth a 2-parter too. But if they can make 2 parts out of him, they can make 2 parts out of fucking Warrior for sure, man. Jesus Christ! I can't believe they didn't come to think of it. We're gonna get to the end of the list here. Umaga, the other half of the 3-minute warning, the other half of Jamal and Rosie.
I was pissed the fuck off when I heard about
the greatest fun of all time. Yeah. Couldn't speak English, then started speaking English. It pissed me off that they just didn't make him speak English in the first place.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when WWE do these things, don't they realize that eventually this can't continue? Like you can't have this guy not being able to speak English. He's got to change. And they did, and like people were surprised when they first started hearing him speak English. Yeah. And it's just stupid they just didn't make him speak English in the first place. These George the Animal Steel gimmicks, they don't work in today's fucking world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Knows.
Yeah, so but how did he die? You guys remember?
Heart attack.
Heart attack. But he was doing like a multitude of prescription drugs, Valium, Somas, and painkillers.
How long ago was it when Vader died?
Vader passed away, pretty recently. It hit the state of Colorado pretty hard because that's where I live, and it hit us hard when Vader passed. And Vader died 2018 because he was told he had 2 years left to live after all the years of football and wrestling took a toll on his heart.
Okay, and I'm kind of surprised because I felt like he was coming back for special events and stuff like that. So I was surprised when I heard that he died. Also, one of the nice guys of the WWE as well. Anyway, finally, I'm going to, unless you want to mention anybody else in this little list here, I want to go straight to Yokozuna.
Tracy Smothers can get his due. Tracy Smothers.
I refereed a match for that guy.
Yeah, one
You
of
did?
the rated motherfuckers
Yep.
in business, without a doubt. Tracy Smothers. Yeah.
Tell me about him.
He was one of those dudes that could get a good match out of anybody in like ECW if you go back and watch the old school ECW days. And he was really, really good. I think in like Smoky Mountain, and I think he worked with Vince for a short time too.
Yeah, Freddie Joe Funk, I think he was called.
Yep.
Okay, dokes. We've got some recognizable names here, but like I said, a lot of these guys have lived at a decent age. Vern Gagne going to 89, that's not tragic at all.
Yeah.
But Yokozuna at 34 is.
Yoke.
Guy's a fucking young man.
Yeah.
Look at the size of him.
Yeah. Yoke is probably the most agile dude on this list out of everybody on here for
Really?
size. To be 600 pounds for a shoot and move like a cruiserweight. Or at least he was 400 when he first started. And then I remember watching one of the most recent WWE documentaries, and the section where they had him tag up with Owen Hart. The reason why they did that was because Yoke got fucking huge. And that's why they made them tag team champions. Because they figure Owen could do most of the light work and Yoko could come in and do some of the heavy stuff.
I don't think I've ever been so angry than I was at WrestleMania 9 when when Yokozuna beat Bret Hart and then lost immediately to Hulk Hogan. I felt physically sick.
Yeah.
When I saw that happen. I don't know about you guys, but he was just there as this giant hurdle for the good guy to beat, which they did. I did like some of his offense, like his finisher, which was he bounce on the second rope and then sit his fat ass down on their chest. But it's not surprised that he passed away. It does piss me off that he had to pretend to be Japanese when he's fucking Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Stuff like that really pisses me off.
And they didn't even have him speak English until like they turned him babyface. And I'm like, what kind of shit is that?
I never heard him speak once. I can't remember it.
He spoke.
It was weird that they actually had to have a manager for the manager.
Yeah.
When Yokozuna was, the big star in the WWF, because they had Mr. Fuji, but Mr. Fuji was so rotten they had to bring in Jim Cornette to manage.
And a joke.
What was wrong with Fuji? Was it his English or what?
Yeah, Fuji.
Yeah.
I don't think Fuji could really speak English really well, so that's why Cornette got brought in, and then they turned Yokozuna face, and then he went nowhere. But that was because of his weight, and I think his last appearance was somebody will correct me out there, Survivor Series '96 in the Garden.
Let's have a quick look.
Yeah. Because at least that's what WWE goes by. They say Survivor Series '96 was his last official TV appearance. He might have done house shows.
He was officially released in May 1998.
Okay.
So, final WWF appearance at the 1996 Survivor Series. So he was still under contract.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because they sent him to the Fat Farm to lose weight.
That was obviously wasn't very successful, was it?
No.
No, it was not. Apparently, he and Vader were getting buckets of fried chicken snuck in for them.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, well. And then you see the results. I do apologize. I'm running on empty here, guys, but you do see the results.
Yokozuna, there was an urban legend that he died of a heart attack due to severe arachnophobia, which wasn't true. It was fluid in his lungs built up from just being as big as he was.
Severe arachnophobia.
That was the urban legend, that he died in a hotel room from a heart attack. After he saw a spider, because apparently he had severe arachnophobia. But again, it was fluid in the lungs that killed him.
Yeah, years of build-up to you.
Okay, well, fellas, I'm going to end this stream now so we can say goodbye to everyone on YouTube land. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. Don't forget to leave a comment as well. And yes, we're the best thing to ever happen to you. You just don't realize that yet. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
So long.